wherever you are. And I know that you all are joining us here on Enlightened World Network from literally all over the world. So I thank you all for tuning in. We've had people tuning in from England, from Romania, the US and Canada, all over. So welcome to all of you. And thank you all for all of your comments. And a number of you have been joining me here every day. So thank you all for that. This is really, really a beautiful time for me because I've realized in all of my years, and there have been decades of spiritual practice, that when we show up to share our experience with other people, we always end up going deeper with our own learning. And the Course says that you teach something in order to learn it yourself, which is very profound. It is. Any time that we, in any arena in life, show up to share our knowledge, our experience with people. I mean, and I do mean the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we've all made mistakes. We've all gotten in our own way. And as adult learners, people can learn from that. We can all learn from each other. It really is shared. So when someone shows up to share, it's a wonderful thing because that person always learns. And I find that when I turn on this camera and begin to speak to you all about my experience with the Course in Miracles, I end up learning quite a bit myself. And that's a beautiful thing. And this can take any form in any arena of life. The reason for that is that we're all connected. We're all connected, as any spiritual tradition would share with us, would teach us, right? And we're always teaching each other, no matter what. Even if you don't fashion yourself as a teacher or an instructor or a trainer of some kind, you don't have to have taken on a teaching role as your job or your career in order to teach, because we're always demonstrating to other people. To teach is to demonstrate. So what are we demonstrating? That's the question for us in life, isn't it? Is, are we demonstrating love, that we have made a commitment to love, or that we're committed to maintaining this sense of separation, this illusion of separation that feels hardcore and real and constrictive and crushing, flat crushing from time to time? Yeah. Which of those are we committed to? And we commit to them by making a decision right now in the present moment, which is quite literally the only time that we have. It's the only time that exists, right? The only moment is right now. So one of the things that A Course in Miracles brings up, especially the workbook, for a lot of people, is this notion that we're not doing something right. People can easily, and I've done it, people can easily feel that they're not doing something right if they forget to do a day's lesson in the workbook, right? Our minds are conditioned that way, to think that we have to have everything all arranged, that we have to have everything in order before we begin. And quite frankly, that's not the case. We just launch into it. The workbook says just practice these activities, just work with the day's idea. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to like it. You definitely don't have to like it, right? And the ego's not going to like it, because what we're after here is a complete reversal of our thought system, a reversal, complete loving reversal of our orientation away from the ego toward love, away from fear toward love, away from the ego to God. That's what we're after. That's what each of us deep down wants. That's why you're watching this live stream. That's why you're interested in A Course in Miracles. That's why you're interested in Enlightened World Network. right? Whatever got your attention about this, there's a reason why you're watching today. So again, I welcome you. Now let's get into lesson 33. There's really, it's a simple lesson. In fact, they're all simple by design. The idea is meant to be a very basic idea that one goes into the day and practices and works with during the day. That doesn't mean that it's easy to remember that. Certainly, it isn't always easy to remember it, no matter what you've got going on today. We're all bombarded in modern life, no question about it. We have our social media thread, and we have people that have needs, right? That demand our attention. If you have kids, they need your attention. But our spouses, our partners need our attention. Everything needs our attention. Broken faucets need our attention. The garden needs our attention, right? Whatever it is, if you're able to come back to the day's idea, then your day becomes really amazing. In fact, it becomes like a walking, living, breathing meditation with the idea for the day in the workbook for students serving as the object of meditation. So that could take the place of breath if you're doing a formal seated meditation or a visualization or a mantra, or if you're concentrating on sound, whatever the object of a meditation is, in off the cushion, so to speak, off the mat, if you want to use yoga terminology, this idea in the workbook for students could serve as that anchor. It can serve as a foundational point, a point of reference that you keep coming back to as often as you remember it and recall it during the day. Yeah, to me, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. So I'm also a meditation instructor and have had my own meditation practice for probably 36 or 37 years. It's been a long time, since the mid 1980s. So I would say that, right? But it is, I mean, it really is that way. So lesson 33, there's another way of looking at the world. Isn't that nice, right? I mean, I'm so glad that that's true. Can you imagine if the opposite were true and there were no other way of looking at the world other than the way we've been conditioned to look at it, as dog eat dog, struggle, fear, right? Oppression, genocide, disease, pandemic, war, restrictions, people fighting with each other, people narking on each other, tattling on each other for not following COVID protocols wherever you are. But there's all kinds of stuff going on in the world. Stuff. If you prefer another word for stuff, then use that, right? There's a lot going on. And we have a choice. Today's lesson reinforces the fact that we have free will, which is a gift from God. It is beautiful. We have free will that is not taken away from us. We could choose not to exercise it. That's a choice of our free will. There's another way of looking at the world. That's the idea for today. And isn't that a wonderful thing? That there's another way of seeing the world. We could choose to see things differently. Now, I don't want to get ahead of us in the workbook, because the workbook is by design very systematic, it's deliberate, and it has us practice just the idea for today for its own sake. And then the next day, the workbook will elaborate on that. So if you're reading ahead, then you know what tomorrow says. But for today, right now, there's another way of looking at the world. And the actual practice is fairly straightforward. For 5 minutes, a couple of times a day, the workbook has us just look around and alternate between having our eyes open and our eyes closed, because as we know, real vision is not of the body's eyes anyway. And there's another way of looking at what appears to be outside of us that we see with our eyes. And there's another way of looking at everything inside of us that we don't see with our eyes. Yeah? They're equally applicable. And there is another way of looking at And what we do with this is one of these lessons that's so obvious that you might be tempted to skip over it. Right? We have a tendency in life as human beings, especially as adult learners, to say, well, I already know that. I mean, people say, oh, that's so yesterday, or well, tell me something I don't know. Well, actually, there is nothing that you don't know. We know all of this, but we're choosing to ignore it. That's what happens in life. We make choices, not our fault, of course. It's based on our conditioning, our society that we grew up in, our families that we grew up in, the schools that we attended when we were young. It's based on a lot of factors, isn't it? But yeah, not our fault. We are conditioned to think a certain way. And we tend to think that that's the only way to look at the world. So a lesson like today's hopefully comes as some relief, and hopefully you find this joyful and liberating, because that is indeed the way it's intended to be: liberating, a relief. There's another way of looking at the world. All right, so I'm going to, on my phone here, pull up the live stream and see who's joining me here today. Wherever you're from in the world, thank you all for tuning in here. We've got several people here. Yes, thank you. Christina, hi, how are you? And Deirdre, hello. And Robert, hi, how are you? Thank you guys for joining. And it looks like Murali, thank you for tuning in. Jake, some people I have not seen on here, welcome. If this is the first time that you've tuned into this live stream, I am here every day sharing about A Course in Miracles. So yeah, Christina writes, why remain a prisoner or a victim? Freedom through choice. Yes. Yeah, just yes. I love that. Yeah, thank you for that comment, Christina. That's really it, isn't it? Because we have a choice to empower ourselves and step into who we really are, which is powerful beyond measure, powerful beyond measure. And we often play small. Yeah, all too often. I mean, that's what we've all done. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it habitually throughout life, is play small and not claiming the power of who we really are is the ultimate in playing small, isn't it? So why do that? That's the question, right? There's no reason to do that, especially when we've got all of the tools and all of the power of God. The will of God's actually our will deep down. We've got all of that at the ready for us. We just have to choose it. I love this. Yes. Yeah. And Robert writes, the world is stuffed with stuff. Yes, it is. There's a lot of phenomena out there, huh? I agree. I agree. Yeah, many good things happen around the world, but we've been taught to focus on the bad things. Yeah, very important point, isn't it? Yeah. How much news media are you reading or listening to today, right? They always, almost always, and sometimes there's a positive feel-good story, but that doesn't sell. It's the blood that sells, the arguments, the riots at the US Capitol that sell, right? It's war, it's genocide, it's pandemics, it's neighbors fighting neighbors. That's what sells. And we consume all this without really thinking about it. And yeah, I mean, it's society, whether people want to have us focus on the bad or not, we're all being trained to focus on the bad. And in fact, the bad it's really not worth focusing on. Yeah. It's so much more relaxing, isn't it, to focus on the good. And if that means we turn off our news media forever and ever, well, so be it. I mean, personally, I find I need to keep a balance and know what's going on in the world. So I'm aware of things, but not too much. Not too much. My wife, Cindy, and I actually don't have a television. We do have a television set, but we don't have cable or dish, so we don't really watch TV. And that really helps our mindset, because all I have to do is turn on my cell phone and there's all the news in the world right there. And there's my Facebook feed with everybody's opinion on it, political, otherwise, uh, vastly different points of view with all the people that I'm connected to. And that's normal in life, isn't it? And yeah. So focusing on the positive is something that Robert points out, and very, very, yeah, very, very correctly. Yeah, is we have to train ourselves to do that. That's why things like the workbook, spiritual practice, is so critically important, isn't it? I mean, it's really, it's here for us so that we can remember who we are, because we all get, we get into arguments with people. We get swept away in a negative story, let's say, in the news media. And our minds just kind of, they're trained to see negativity, see separation. And so we do. And exercises like this in the workbook for students, or a meditation practice or a yoga practice, prayer, if you're practicing an established spiritual tradition, whatever that looks like for you, right? The frequency of bringing our mind back to the good, the positive, love, who we are, the frequency of that is going to determine our experience. And it's exercises like this in the workbook that really help. So, I mean, as often as we remember to do them, we should do them, because it reorients our mind. And that's the point. That's the point. Yes. So thank you all here for tuning in today. And again, if you're just joining me for the first time, welcome. This is a daily live stream, and I would invite you to check the show guide in Enlightened World Network's Facebook page here. You always have that as the very first post, and that will show the day's programming, because the programming for this show, in fact, does move around at different times. And I love that, actually, because I get to catch different people at different times. So if you're just joining me, thank you very much for doing that. We are going through the workbook a day at a time, a lesson at a time. And if you'd like to watch some videos, some prior videos here, they're all of them available on the YouTube channel for Enlightened World Network. So there is a playlist for A Course in Miracles 365. That's this show. And you can watch back episodes at your leisure. And this is wonderful that we can reach people live and catch them on the replay. So if you're catching this on the replay, feel free to type in questions or comments here in the comment thread, and I will get to them later on during the day, because as you all know, if you've been tuning in, I catch them and I check them, right? Because I want to be here as a resource to you. This is the reason why I'm doing this, is to share my experience, knowing that I need to do that, and knowing that there are people that are going to benefit from that. And that's true no matter what career you happen to have in life, no matter where you are in the world. If we share our experience in a loving way with other people, they will relate to it. And the Course tells us that once we answer the call, right, the call to awaken, that everyone that's supposed to be working with us will begin looking for us right away. Now, everyone hears the call, and the Course tells us few answer. Well, you've answered, so thank you very much for answering the call in your own life. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. The more of us that do this, the better. So please feel welcome to share this post with your friends. Tell them about the programming that we have here at Enlightened World Network. And I will see you all back here again tomorrow. So have a beautiful day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.